They were young. Most barely 20. Boys who should have been in classrooms, on ball fields, in love. But instead, they were in the skies, inside cold metal bombers, flying into the heart of darkness. This is their story. The story of the men who fought the war from 10,000 feet above the earth, and who lived every day knowing that the next mission could be their last. In World War II, the air war over Europe was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was not a battle fought face to face, but a battle of endurance, courage, and faith. Every morning, hundreds of bombers lined up on the runways of England, grey shapes glinting in the fog. Engines thundered. Propellers spun. And as they lifted into the sky, the ground disappeared, replaced by endless clouds and the knowledge that not all of them would come back. They called them flying fortresses, B-17s, B-24s, Lancaster bombers. Machines of steel and fire. But inside, they carried human hearts, fragile, fearful, and fierce. Each mission was the same ritual of terror and resolve. Wake before dawn. Coffee gone cold before it could be finished. A briefing, targets in France, Germany, the Low Countries. Maps on the wall. A commander's voice steady but grim. Then silence, as each man stared at the map, wondering if today would be the day his luck ran out. Once airborne, the sky became their battlefield. Flak bursts dotted the air like black blossoms. Each explosion rocked the aircraft, shrapnel tearing through the fuselage. Enemy fighters darted in from the clouds, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, fast and deadly. The gunners fired back, tracer rounds streaking like falling stars. There was no time to think, no time to fear. Only to fight, to hold your breath, and hope the engines kept turning. Above the roar of the guns and the engines, the intercom crackled with voices, steady, calm, pretending not to be afraid. Tails clear. Right waist firing. 2 coming in from 11 o'clock high. Short sentences that meant everything. When a bomber was hit, it was never just a plane falling. It was 10 lives disappearing in a single moment. 10 faces, friends, brothers, sons, vanishing into smoke and silence. Still, they flew. Day after day, mission after mission. Some crews didn't survive 5. Others made it to 25, and were considered miracles. They flew not because they loved war, but because they believed that if they didn't, the war would never end. In the freezing air at 20,000 feet, frost formed on their masks, their hands numb, their hearts racing. They were too young to die, too brave to admit it. Each man carried a photograph tucked inside his jacket, a sweetheart, a mother, a family waiting back home. That picture was their anchor, their reason to fight another day. There were moments, even up there, when courage took quiet forms. A pilot refusing to bail out until his crew was safe. A gunner who stayed at his post with his leg shattered. A navigator praying softly under his breath while the plane burned around him. They never called themselves heroes. They called it duty. And yet, their courage changed the course of history. Without them, the war might have dragged on. Without them, liberation might have come too late. When the missions were over and the survivors returned, the silence of the airfields was deafening. Each empty bunk told a story. Each missing voice left an ache that never faded. The survivors smiled for photographs, drank, laughed, but deep down, they carried ghosts. Years later, many never spoke about what they'd seen. Not because they forgot, but because words could never hold the weight of those skies. They had lived too close to death, too close to fear, and somehow came back alive. That was enough. Today, when we look at old footage, those grainy films of bombers flying in formation, it's easy to see machines. But we must remember the men inside them. The kid from Ohio who dreamed of being a mechanic. The farm boy from Kansas who'd never seen a city until the war. The brothers, the fathers, the friends, who looked up at the stars and wondered if they'd ever see them again from home. They flew into the unknown, not for glory, but because someone had to. And in doing so, they became a symbol of courage that will never fade. Courage is not born from strength, it is born from necessity. From the quiet understanding that you might not make it back, but you go anyway. The bomber crews of World War II taught us that bravery is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. Their engines have long gone silent. Their wings rest in museums, their medals tucked away in drawers. But their story still flies, carried by the wind, remembered by those who understand what sacrifice truly means. So tonight, as you look up at the sky, remember them. The boys who became men somewhere above the clouds. The crews who fought not for fame, but for peace. The ones who never came home, and the ones who did, forever changed. They were the last flight. The quiet heroes who soared through fear and flame. And though time has passed, their courage still echoes. In the endless sky they called home.